out. Did you send those out this morning, or are they attached to the Teams?
About an hour ago, I sent an email around. I thought that I included everybody. It was everybody that was in the Teams group. Is there anyone that besides Todd that did not get it?
I don't think I have it either.
Yeah,
I don't have anything.
well,
I'm not seeing it.
Sounds like everybody did not get it.
Brent, can you add me? This is Laura.
Hi, Laura. Yes, add you to the email list.
Yes, please.
You're on the meeting, though. In the meeting.
Lori covertly invited me.
It looks like Andrew started the recording, so thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't know that would like be like in general, so cool. I was wondering if that was just an option to personally record.
It'll probably appear in your streams account.
Ah,
Right now with the interim.
So if there, I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Let me send those files around again.
And some of this, the reason we do this is some of it just doesn't show forecast right now because we will forecast. So it's like, yeah, I need you to confirm that you're comfortable with.
All right. Jared, Lori Sagers, Todd Erickson, Cannon, Brian Spencer, Laura Duvall.
Yep, 123.8.
We'll be over this department, but we are hiring a manager. So at that point, that manager will hire one. So at that point, we'll probably set some different.
All right. I just sent out that that email that I attempted to send through to the Teams group, but apparently that's where it failed. Hopefully everybody has those, and the instructions just say to open up the Excel file. And then you'll be right where I am right here on this, with this screen. So as soon as you have it and you're ready to go, if you want to just check in, let me know.
This is my surprise container. Yeah. So this container we have ready. This container we have.
I've got it.
Good.
Yeah, you just want the Excel open, not the CSVs.
Correct.
Thanks. We're good.
You know what? Let's just say if you don't have it, let me know. I'm going to count down 30 seconds and then I'm going to begin. So while you're opening that, before I begin, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what I want to do today. So we did a lot of different things the last time inside of Power Query. And if you're just joining us now, I guess what I'll do is do a quick update of what we had done. And the purposes of the first meeting was multiple purposes, was to kind of go over a new method for importing data into Excel, especially data that might be coming out of Manage 2000 in the form of a CSV file or whatever, allowing us to not have to, if we wanted to modify that file inside of Excel, every time we downloaded the Manage 2000 file, we'd have to do the same thing each time if we wanted to keep that modification that we had done. This, using Power Query, we can basically set up a whole bunch of steps that don't have to be repeated, that would allow us to modify that data or modify the file, rerun the report, and then save it in the same location each time. But you open up the Excel spreadsheet and then it would reference the data, but it would format it in the same way that we have had it formatted using Power Query. So that was a quick overview of what the purpose of the meeting was. And last time we used data that came from a M2K report called adj.detail. Basically, it's just the adjustments that have happened. And if you're looking at my screen right now, you can see that this is quantity adjust is the description of the offset GL number. And that report is designed to look at this description and pull in anything that says quantity ADJ dash. And then it will create that CSV file. So that's the file that we used. There's a few columns of information here, and we went through and deleted some of the columns. And by the way, this spreadsheet is back to the kind of the raw state, but not really. We haven't done anything on any of the columns. Before, we took out columns L, M, and N, and those are still there. And we also added a custom column inside of Power Query. We haven't done that yet, but I'll show you. And the reason it hasn't been done yet is because I want to show you a quick and different way to do that. So there's lots, just like Excel, there are quite a few different ways to do things inside of Power Query. You also noticed last time we formatted this part number so that it would have the leading zeros, and that hasn't been done yet. It still has the a shortened version of the official part number, which is supposed to be 6 digits with a leading 0. That hasn't been done yet either. All right, so I'm going to jump right in. If anybody isn't ready to follow along, just let me know. Okay. So we're going to first open the Power Query editor. To do that, go up to your Data tab. And I'm going to show you one of the couple different methods to use. Go over to the Get Data icon and choose Launch Power Query Editor. And up comes that familiar Power Query. And I don't know if you noticed, I quickly click this little button right here to expand or contract this panel over here on the left. You can leave it either way because we're going to go back to this in just a minute. But either you can leave it expanded or you can go ahead and contract it. All right. So here's Power Query. For those who haven't seen it yet, I'm going to just quickly point out a couple of the really important features. And those are that Power Query is pretty cool. When you start using it, it will actually help you along. And one of the things that it first does is format your data. So over here in this far right column, there's these applied steps. And every time there's a step that is done that is unique, it will create a little a step over here that you can actually click on and reference, and it'll show you what happened. The name.
Brent, I'm gonna interrupt real quick. When I went to get the data, it's telling me that the freight table wasn't found. I don't know if anybody else has that error.
Get the data.
I do. Mine says the column freight of the table wasn't found.
Yeah, same error I've got.
All right. You can ignore it. That's weird. So you just opened that that spreadsheet that I just sent you, huh?
Yep.
I did from what you sent earlier today.
Okay. Well, that's weird. Are you able to do anything? Can you see? You have the error, but can you also navigate inside of Power Query?
No,
No, we don't see Power Query.
just a yellow bar.
Now it's an expression error. So it's like there's an expression that it's trying to look at. And
Let's do this. Click on your refresh all button and let me know what happens there. Hopefully it came back okay.
Let's see here.
Nothing for me.
Still the same error?
Yep.
Brent, on mine, I can see the expression. I can see where freight is referred to in the expression. I could probably just take that out of the expression and see what happens.
Yeah, why don't
that might work? See if it'll let me take it out here.
Unfortunately, I have no idea. I wish that I could see what was happening, but I don't have any better option.
Interesting. I took out the freight, but now it tells me the column material burden of the table wasn't found. So something's weird there.
So did you save it to your download folder? All those files? Oh, that's what we need to do probably. Save.
But yeah, I didn't save mine there. I put them in a different folder.
Yeah, save those files to your C:\download folder and try it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any better luck this time?
The 50, yeah, that's fine. Okay, yeah, that's fine. All right, thanks. Hey, quick question. You know those
We good yet?
I'm not, but go ahead. You can keep on going. If everybody else is ready, don't wait for me. Just about there.
How about you, Todd?
Still getting the same error, Brant.
Actually, well, I think I'm good right now. Mine seems to work.
So Todd, you saved those to the C:\download.
Yeah, just reopen that file, but that's okay. Just move forward. I'll play with it here a little bit.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what might have happened. All right. So launch Power Query Editor. And I was talking about the steps and one thing Power Query. So if you click on this source step, you'll see where the file, the CSV file, CSV document is located. So that's why it's important to have that in that particular folder. C:\download. Got to be it has to look just like that. One of the other things that Power Query did automatically is promoted these headers. So it knew that first row of data in that CSV file were the header names, column names, and it changed the types. It guessed on what types these were. All right, so last time we went in and we edited those. This time we actually got into this up here at the formula bar and changed the part number to a different type. I left that alone this time. So this time, what we're gonna do this a different way. So you can, if everybody wants to do this, highlight the part number column heading and right click and choose change type. You see it currently, it's a whole number. Select text and replace current. And what that means is there has already been some action taken on this particular column. So it wants to replace what had just happened. And that was what Power Query did for us automatically. That's the change type step that it's referring to. So now you see on this row,
I'm sorry, Brent, what was that type that you chose?
Text.
Change text?
Yep.
Okay.
So now we've got our leading zero. And so last time we also added a new column. So we're going to do this a different way this time. We're going to, you can be anywhere in your table that you want to be, but click up on the Add Column tab, choose Custom Column. Last time it was a little bit tricky, and there was some more sophisticated formulas that popped up. I'm going to show you how to do this so much faster and easier. So last time we created a formula. We had to type in number.abs in order to get the absolute value of our number. This time we're just going to go ahead and click the column headings. If you scroll down, you'll see the total, which is the part of the formula that we want. Double click on total. And this is kind of goofy. You'll have to scroll back up, but you see it put that total column in our formula. Then you put the slash. I like to put spaces in there. You probably don't need them, but so total space slash or divided by is really what that represents. Double click quantity, and now you have a formula for the new column. It's going to take the total and divide it by the quantity column and give us a new column. So if you click OK, you'll see the new custom column that we just created. All right, and last time, a part of that formula was to do an absolute value, but it was really unnecessary in that case because we were multiplying a negative quantity, or we were dividing a negative quantity by a negative quantity, which is in every case is going to give us an absolute value. But anyway, so that's a lot simpler way to get the new custom. So in cases where you want absolute value, I'm going to demonstrate how to get that a lot simpler. So what we could have done, if this came back with some negative numbers, you can right click on it and choose transform, and you'll see the option absolute value there. Not going to do us a lot of good to do that to this new custom column, but let's do it to the total column. So if you right click on total, choose transform, select absolute value. Now you've got the absolute value of the total column. You'll also notice that that didn't change the new custom column at all, even though now it looks like we're dividing total by a negative quantity amount, which should produce a negative new custom. So, but that did nothing to this column. All right. So here's another cool feature, and I wanted to show you this in this specific order, and I wanted to point out the absolute value thing right there with this new column not being affected at all. The cool thing about Power Query, or one of the other cool things, is you can take these steps and you can drag them up and put them in a different order. So if you take this calculated absolute value step and drop it between the change type and the added custom step, you now have, if you, okay, so wherever you are in your steps is what your data is going to look like. So click on this added custom step and you'll see that the custom column that we added is now there, and there are negative values because we took that step that we had done before and placed it in front of the step that we created, where we created the new custom column. Okay, so that's kind of cool, I think. All right, so now let's do one more quick little right click on the total column. And we're going to change the type of this to currency just for fun. You'll see it, even though it doesn't put a $sign there, the $sign appears in the column header, and you've got your decimal places. All right. So a couple other things that we're going to do right now. We're going to do some additional right-click manipulation. So if you click the logon column and then do a right-click, and there's a option called duplicate column. We're going to go ahead and do that. And I want to point out also that if I get ahead and you aren't able to follow along with me step by step, please feel free to just mention it. Tell me to stop. As I mentioned before, as we started the first class, that I think this is a really good way to do training in a lab type environment, a virtual lab. So it's really important to have the hands-on. I think it's the best way to learn personally. So that's why I want everybody to be able to follow right along and do these steps as I'm doing them. And also just to remind you that I'm recording these. So yeah, you can go back and refer to this stuff anytime.
Brent,
All right,
quick
so,
question. Hey, Brent,
yes.
This is Brian. Got a quick question. Both of the columns we have added have always gone to the end of this database. Are you ever going to show us how we can pull them up in? If I didn't want my duplicate copy of login to go all the way to the end, I wanted it up next to the column I copied. Are you going to show us how to get into that?
Click and hold with your left mouse button on the top of the column.
Just drag and drop?
Drag it and drop it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. And that's going to, again, these changes are going to stay no matter how many times you refresh that original CSV file right up here. So the next time you run this report, all these changes are going to be there. So we just drag this column over to the left a little bit. Another thing that we'll do to this column is we're going to right click on the top column header. We're going to transform and change that to uppercase. All right. Now, fun. All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to add an additional column, and we're going to take the toLoc column, and we're going to take the newly duplicated column called logon-copy. So hold down your control key and then left mouse button click on the header there, the logon-copy. So now we have these two columns selected. You right click in either of these columns, the top, choose your right click, and we're going to merge columns. All right, now this gives us the option to format it in any way we want. You see the separator. If we choose none, it's going to combine those two, append the one to the other, and it's going to look really messy. What we want to do is, so we have some built-in ones that it will give you, so we can do a space or a tab, whatever else here. But I also like this custom option because I'm never satisfied with what they give us. So what we'll do is I'm going to put a space, asterisk, and space as my separator. And then I'm going to be merged. I can name this whatever I want. And then click OK. And now this, we have a new column. It actually took the place of the one column that we had. So the reason for copying or duplicating this column is if we wanted to keep this, and actually it merged both. So the toLoc is now over here, and the login is over here as well. If you wanted to keep your toLoc column on its own, we could also have duplicated that so that we would still have a separate column with the toLoc. So just an FYI. All right. Okay, so with the data in this format, we can now start having a little bit more fun. So just because we did this last time, we will delete these three columns that are nothing but zeros. So if you want to hold your control key down and select each one, then you can either press your delete key, or you could go up to this home option or home tab and choose the remove columns option. All right, so those columns are now gone. And again, if you look over here on your applied steps, you can see we've done quite a few of these. Let's just for fun say we didn't really like this removed columns right there. We could do that. We could put that up all the way up there, and it really, we don't want to do that apparently. Okay, so we could at least do this. Yeah, apparently I put it in front of something that I shouldn't have put it in front of, but just an example of being able to reorder these steps anytime you want. All right, okay, so let's say that we want to summarize this data a little bit differently. Well, it's not summarized at all. This is, let's say we want to summarize it. Over here in this queries panel, if you're not expanded, go ahead and expand this left panel over here by clicking on the arrow. And you can see this is your data source. That's that CSV file that it's referring to. So we have one query in here. All right, and one of the other things that we'll get into as we go in the weeks to come, trainings to come, is getting more sources into here, into this queries list, and then acting on those however we want to. We can merge them and lots of other fun stuff. Today, I'm just going to demonstrate being able to have multiple instances of this table, the way it's formatted, to act on it in different ways. And it'll make more sense what I just said in just a minute. So for now, just right click on this ADJ, and we're going to choose reference. So now you should have an ADJ and an ADJ parentheses 2. And this ADJ parentheses 2 should look, as far as the layout of the data, exactly like the ADJ. All right, and the reason for that is we want to keep this, actually a really good reason for that is we might want to summarize this data 2 different ways. So what we're going to do first is we're going to summarize by the adjust reason and the GL number and the login account and aggregate the total quantity and the total dollar amounts, so that we're going to have a summarized bit of data here when we're done here. So first off, make sure you're highlighted on, you've got this ADJ2 highlighted, and go up to the group by icon and click on that. And it's going to give us another dialog box here, and we want to click on advanced. And now it's going to give us the groupings that we want to add to this new grouping or new data set. And it will give you the first option or the first column as the option in this first group by. But we were going to change that. We'll drop this down and we'll change this to, let me look at my notes. The adjust reason will be the first. And we're going to add another grouping. So click on add grouping, and then you'll get that same drop down option again. And we're going to select GL count. And again, this doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but these are fairly real world examples. And then we're going to add an additional grouping, and that is going to be by logon. So drop that down and select logon. Now we're going to add these aggregated columns. It needs a new column name. So if you click in that and change this count to, let's call it quantity. Go to the operation. We're going to sum. And who can guess which column we're going to sum on? I say quantity. And then we're going to add another aggregation called total. And it's going to also be a sum, but of course you can see there are other options here. Mins and maxes, which sometimes are pretty useful. And then we're going to act on the total. I want to point out when you're here with this drop down, you can see that this new custom column that we added is available to be summarized on if necessary. But for this purpose, we'll just do the total. Now, when you click OK, watch the magic that happens. It went from a couple hundred rows to just this many. So for every time that there's an adjust reason of SHA and the GL account is this and the logon ID is this, it's going to summarize over here the total quantity and the total of the total. All right, so that is our first summary. And if you right click over here in the left column, you can rename this to something that makes a little bit more sense. So now we've got a summarized version of this. And I'm just going to call it summary. All right, and as you can see with the steps to this one, the first one is referencing the ADJ data set. As you can see, just basically up in the formula bar, it says equals ADJ. And then the next step was we grouped the rows. All right, so quickly I'll show you the fun cog button again. For those that didn't see it last week, this is a way to go back and make some changes to some step that you've already done. If you click on the cog button, it'll bring back up that little window. And if we wanted to add one more aggregation of some sort, let's just do the max total. So that's what the name of the column is. And then over here in the column is going to be the total. So we can do two different types of aggregations on the same column if we choose. So that's how you would, that's how you could go up there and edit one of your steps. Okay, and you see that it added this cool column, which probably isn't a real world example, but doing the max, using the max option is a real world example. Anyway, okay, so that's one data set. So we're going to also, we're going to go back up to the ADJ and right click on it and then choose duplicate just for fun. All right, so now you'll see that since we no longer have that ADJ left paren to right paren, we renamed it. It gave us another one of those. This time, instead of choosing reference, we chose duplicate. So now you look over here and you see all the same steps that we did on the original. Let's just say we didn't want one of these columns here in our new data set. So we added a custom column. You can go over here to these steps, hit that delete, and choose OK. Yeah, all right. No worries. I'm going to delete that. So we're going to go ahead and just delete that, what we just created. Anyway, you can go and make modifications to it. The reason there's the two options here, duplicate and reference. The reason you'd want to duplicate it is if you wanted your data formatted, you want it based on the same original source, but you might want it formatted just a little bit differently. You may want to add a column that may not be necessary in the other. But for this purposes of this, I'm going to go ahead and click reference. So if you want to click reference here, we'll go back to the similar method that we used to get this little data set. And we're going to do another summary. So let's right click, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of speeding up because time is kind of short. Click right, I'm sorry. With this highlighted, we're going to go back up to the group by, and we're going to choose advanced again, and then we're going to only group by the logon ID this time. And we're going to use the same columns for the aggregations, but you'll see how different it's going to be this time around. Since we don't have as many other columns, it's going to bring back fewer rows. So change your names to quantity and total. Change your operations to sum. And then this is going to be the column that we want to have totaled. And when you click OK, it'll bring back this data set. All right, and then we can rename it. And again, you can do many different options here. So even more summarized. All right. Okay, so why is that good? It doesn't look like Excel at all right now, but I'll show you why it's good. So now we've done a couple of different things with this CSV file. We're ready to look at it in Excel. So when you're done doing these cool little queries, go up to your Close and Load button on the Home tab. Go ahead and click that and watch what happens. You'll see that over here on the right, perhaps, you see these queries that are listed that we all are familiar with now. If you hover over them, you can kind of see the example of the data set. If you click on it, it will take you to the sheet where that query got placed when we loaded it. Click on this even more summarized, it will take you to sheet 2. All right, that's all fun, but what if we want to see them both on the same sheet? That's the question I have. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this sheet. If I delete this, so go ahead and right click on the sheet 2 name, choose delete. Go ahead and choose delete there. It's not going to remove this query. The query is still there. It's just not loaded to a sheet right now. What we're going to do is click on sheet 1 if it hasn't already gone there. And we're going to go up to H1. So click in H1. And then if you right click on your even more summarized one, go down to the load to option. And we're going to select table. And you see down here, we want it to go to the existing worksheet. It's smart enough to know that when we selected H1, that's where we wanted the corner of that query to be placed.
Brent, I'm not seeing wherever your mouse is on my screen is just over a blank sequence of Excel.
Oh.
Like G1 through X38 is all just rectangles. There's no menu there.
Okay. Yeah, what I did is I right clicked and I came up with an import. So if you right click, choose load to.
Yeah.
Did you get the import data?
No. No, it's just showing the sheet itself, not whatever menu popped up. Maybe you'd have to share a screen instead of a window. I'm not sure.
Anybody else have problems seeing that? If I right click. Oh,
I can see the right click menu, like copy, edit, delete, rename. I see that. I see you clicking load to, but then the menu that load to was within disappears and nothing appears.
Okay.
I think if you share the screen itself instead of just this Excel window, maybe that would work. I'm not sure.
Let's try it.
Just making stuff up now. Yeah, there it is.
Ta-da! Good job, Mike.
Thank you.
A+ for you today.
Get my gold star. I'm going home.
A. All right, so what I did was I selected this H1, which is where I want the upper left corner of my even more summarized data set to appear. I could choose K1 just as easily. I could even choose K2 if I wanted. Let's do K2. So when I right click on that, I choose the load to, and what we're going to do is select the table option. And this is where we can put it in this, what we want to do. This gives us the option to put it in the existing worksheet. Or if we wanted, for whatever reason, to add a new worksheet, we could select this option down here. But what I wanted to do is put it in the existing sheet. So when I click that, there are those two new queries that we created, summarized, all in the same sheet. And voila. All right, so we've run over just a few minutes. I did want to keep this at 45 minutes. I'm happy to stay on and answer questions, but as far as what I had to give today or present today, that's it. Does anybody have any questions for the group or for me that might be interesting to the group?
Hey, Brent, this is Brian. I'll stay after and chat with you on a couple of these.
Okay.